Hey everyone, today for another vlog, and today I would like to talk about energetical barriers. Quite a weird topic for people who are not really interested in those things or aware of those things. So, uh, I'm not really sure why when a lot of people talk about energy, they make it sound like it's a really like far-fetched thing that you need to like. I would say it's fairly down to earth, honestly. What is energy? The way I would say it's simply like, for example, the biggest example for me that comes up is the way stress is experienced and the way you can move it if you're conscious of your stress. So if you're unconscious of it, often you have very like people will have very like preset responses to the stress. Alright, so in my life, it has mainly been, I would say, dissociation and distraction. So you could say that the energy that goes to your head, and there's a way in which you can literally feel the energy in your body, right? So it's not very difficult. Obviously, it's not complicated to feel the energy, but it's something that's it's gonna need to be practiced because most people walk around very dissociated, right? So they don't really feel their body, which is not surprising considering that we spend like 8 hours minimum from school onwards sitting in a room completely dissociated from our bodies, and we are all intellectual, right? All in the head. And it's made even worse with screens, right? Because screens exacerbate this even more. And as a result, the way people often deal with their energies is to, well, with their mind, basically. They just repress and distract themselves instead of, just feeling the body and consciously dealing with the energies. Uh, yeah, so stress is one form of energy, but it's not necessarily like it's not necessarily negative. Right? Energy could also be like feeling really, yeah, just feeling really alive, or really excited about something, and feeling it all in your entire body. Although some parts may be more felt, maybe more charged in energy. For example, like when I get stressed, I say the two main parts of my body that get affected are my belly and my head, which kind of causes headaches. Um, which if you know some things about chakra, this is actually not a mundane this is not an instant fact. Actually, those two areas are linked with very specific chakras, and I would definitely notice those problems in my life, but I'm not gonna get into it. So today I want to talk about energetical barriers, and first of all, what is it exactly? So I've talked in several videos before about how I'm a sensitive person. That is, I pick up a lot of things from the environment. And more specifically, the type of things you pick up with are, first of all, it makes you pretty good at observations in general, right? Because you just pick up more things from the environment. It also makes you very receptive to other people's energies. So, on more, grounded day-to-day terms, the way it can manifest is by someone who is really, really sensitive to other people's facial expressions, right? So any signs of danger or rejection can be seen by a sensitive person as like a really grave threat. And this is really exacerbated during childhood because, you know, when you think about it, childhood is like by far the most vulnerable part of your life, period of your life, because you're literally dependent on your parents to survive. You're forced, to go to school, and you're forced to live with the social environment and all that. But like, it's not like you could leave a school if you wanted to. Right? As an adult, you can leave environments if you so wish. Um, it's not always easy, but you can't leave every single environment you wish. But certainly have a lot more freedom as an adult and a lot more resources. But as a child, you're very vulnerable, and when you combine that with sensitivity, the ability to pick up on other people's energies, what happens is that often a lot of people how say they are not really good at putting up barriers or putting up boundaries on a more just grounded term. So the way it often manifests is that, for example, a lot of people who are very sensitive, they're really bad at saying no, for instance, right? So it's not just that they uh, struggle asserting themselves. It's also that they don't really have any like personal boundaries and personal sense of like agency and all that. And that's definitely been the leading one of the leading recurring problems in my life. It's just a complete lack of like personal power and authority, like way to assert myself. and it has become really apparent for me throughout the past year or so. The way my power center is really underdeveloped. My ability to assert myself is really underdeveloped because when I was a child, it still is the case. Honestly, like I wasn't really able to. I wasn't ever in a situation where I could say no to my parents, for example. So my the survival strategy that emerged from that is that I was never really allowed to say no, and so saying yes was like the default way to get safety, right? And it left me very underdeveloped in many ways. One way in which is obviously the ability to assert yourself, right? To just say no to people and to just to say no, but like in a confident but not like toxic way, right? Just asserting yourself, like I don't want to do that, right? Not being personal, not making a drama out of it, just saying that you don't want to do something. This is what secure people are able to do, and this is something I've been consciously doing, and it's not something I'm terribly bad at, but the reality of it is that I still have a lot of like energetical remnants in my body, like in other words, tension. And so it's not just about saying no to people asking you to do things, but that's obviously a huge component of it. Another component of it is like also like being able to not pick up on other, like having the ability to not like pick up on other people's negative energies. So for example, like when other people are talking about their problems, it is the ability to not, fuse with their problems, so to speak, right? To not feel bad in your own body because other people have problems. I think this is really like a very common problem that like more sensitive people face. Uh, I guess it's fair to say like women in general are more sensitive, but I think it's not really a gender thing. Or there might be a general trend in gender, right? But I think suddenly there are a lot of men and even people who don't identify as either who could be considered sensitive because especially because in today's world, with uh, with the fact that survival has become much less of a problem for people. I think a lot of people can just be a lot more honest with themselves and really feel into their emotions. And so maybe it's not that the world is becoming more sensitive. Maybe it's more that there is more opportunity to be sensitive. I'm not sure, but I think what I noticed is that this is quite a common problem actually in my own life. It's like when witnessing people who share about their problems and who are clearly under stress and who are feeling somewhat negative, like I don't really have the ability to just not take up on those energies, and it would be nice if I was better at this. And this is sort of what an energetical bio is. Like you can say that as a metaphor, but it's actually a very real sense, felt thing, the energetical barrier. But you could also just see it as a metaphor. I think that's fine as well. The metaphor being the ability to not automatically pick up other people's energies when they are around you, but especially because the problem is that when it happens with like strangers like on the streets, or like let's say there's like a child crying in the bus, like for example, I would pick up on that and I would feel it in my body, and I might come home and not really understand why I feel tense in my body all of a sudden, but actually the reason is actually because I picked up on the child's energies. And this might seem really like to people who are not familiar with their own body and their own energies, this might seem really like crazy or whatever, but like the reason why most people do not talk about those things is because most people are incredibly dissociated, and also most people are actively dissociating, right? Like they're using music and their phones, for example, to actively dissociate from their body. And it's something that you can probably even feel on the bus, right? Like not only can I feel the energy that goes into my body from the child crying, but I can sometimes pick up from other people the active attempt to dissociate, right? That the fact I know that they know that the child is crying, and I can sort of feel that the person trying to like actively dissociate from that because they probably can also pick up on that, but they don't want to deal with it, right? So it might seem a bit crazy, but I think in my experience, it's actually very, very real, even though the words might not be familiar. But at the same time, the world we live in isn't particularly healthy, I would say. So I wouldn't say that familiarity is a good sign of something being healthy or truthful. Yeah. So energetical barriers are essentially the ability to say no on an energetical level, right? So not just on a human to human level, but really just on a like yeah, just you could say emotional. Right? Energies and emotions are very tightly coupled, and it's basically the ability to not pick up on other people's mm, unclean emotions, energies, when you do not wish to, when you do not wish for that to happen. And it's yeah, I mean, I've talked to some people on Twitter about it, like how to develop that a bit, and it's pretty nebulous for me so far. But I think the main way it happens is by basically, first off, by really feeling your ground, like really feeling your root. In my case, it's really literally just my feet. The feet are literally and also metaphorically the grounding to your body, and also it's also about like really setting a specific intent to not pick up other people's energies, like like really feeling the body and saying, just having the clear intent to not pick it up. And intent is a really powerful tool, right? Like it's something I'm not really good at using, like the power of intent. But it's, I think, as I live more and I see people and the way they struggle with their problems, I can see how intent might actually be one of the biggest components of what keeps people trapped in their problems versus slowly making their way to a better place. But yeah, as silly as it sounds, the intent to not pick up on other people's energy is actually a pretty big component of it. And the third one is the ability to like redirect your energy throughout your body, right? So one way of which to is to literally just breathe and like visualize the energy. And for some reason, I'm not really sure why, it's the feeling kind of starts following from the visualization, right? So if you try to like if you try to like visualize energy going to your hands, for example, like whatever you think energy is, you might actually start feeling your hands more. And I'm not really sure why that's the case, but it seems that it is literally possible to redirect energy through like pure visualization, and it's really weird. But yeah, and so one exercise that was being worked with basically the ability to do that, but like yeah, you sort of like project it onto like a barrier. So that's where the nebulous part comes in, right? I don't really feel any barrier. I just feel my hands. I don't really feel the barrier being made by my hands, but yeah, I'm just slowly like trying to figure it out. And I think because it's been such an underdeveloped part of my life, it's probably going to take a lot of time, right? But what I notice is that, like, again, the intent of not first of all noticing that I pick up other people's problems and energies, and that I struggle asserting myself. That's already a good observation, right? And I think just the intent already makes a pretty big difference in my life because you know I would say I have a pretty like collapse oriented worldview. Like I would say I feel pretty confident in saying that the modern society is gonna collapse within my lifetime, or at least if not collapse, then it will be impossible to live the way we do currently in like 25 years or 35 years because of the inherent lowering return on investment of oil and all such energy. So basically energy is going to be more expensive and all that. So all of that to say that I have a collapse oriented worldview. I would say the world is going to collapse within my lifetime, and so I'm quite sensitive to like world problems in general, right? So like even when I was a kid, I was already like people were already talking about climate change, and it was just crazy to me that it's literally a problem that affects everyone on Earth, right? Because we all live under the same atmosphere, and yet we somehow seem completely helpless in that. And yeah, it just seemed really crazy to me, and I think that's another component of being a sensitive person is that it's not just that you pick up on like individuals within your life, but I think you also pick up on like the really like doomer vibes from the news, right? That's which in many ways are kind of intended. I would say. Um, Maybe intended is not the right word. Maybe, but like I feel like it's very deliberate. No, not deliberate is not the right word, but I would say it's very like important actually that the news has such bad vibes. Like I wouldn't say it's an accident. I wouldn't say it's deliberate either, but I would say it's really strong at reinforcing many of the aspects of society like disempowerment and misinformation and all that, and just people distracting themselves and all that. Because ultimately, the news are a business. Their main concern is not information. The main concern is really business and you know interfacing well with mainstream society. So in other words, the news is just a really, really shitty influence, and I'm really glad that I made the decision early on in my life as a teenager to completely cut myself off from that because my ability to shield myself from that energy was really non-existent back then. And I think the best move in that case is really just to stay away from that, right? So I guess it's I guess that's not a barrier, obviously. Like a barrier would be like some type of protection, but I think that's like the second best thing. In some cases, it's honestly the best thing to do is to not even attempt to deal with bad vibes. Is to just remove yourself from the situation in the first place. Yeah. So it's been 16 minutes. I don't think I have anything else to add. Don't want to make this too long, but yeah, I've been sort of feeling into that the tension and the way I inherit it from my environment. And it's quite an interesting exploration, right? I would highly encourage people listening to this to explore their own body and to really like feel it rather than think about their body. And that's a completely different thing. Yeah. So thank you for listening, and I see you next time.